Welcome to the Dreamers Podcast. I'm your host, Anne-Lyse, and today I have a very special guest. Mandi Woodruff-Santos is here. She is the award-winning co-host of the Brown Ambition podcast. She's the founder of Mandi Moneymakers, a leadership and career coaching community for women of color. Mandi was also recently named as one of the 25 most influential voices or new voices when it comes to money by Next Advisor. She's a regular contributor to Yahoo Finance and has been featured on the Dr. Phil Show and so many other media outlets. Mandi, welcome to the Dreamers Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Anne-Lyse. I'm excited to be here.
For the Dreamers who might not be familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
My name is Mandi. I go by Mandi Money on all socials. So my background is as a journalist. I got my career start as a writer. I thought that was the only thing I was equipped to do. And I was just grateful to have that epiphany in high school that I could write for magazines or something like that. So I graduated from college with a degree in print journalism, and it was 2009. And if you know anything about that time in our country, it was a hot mess of an economy. And particularly for journalism, media was doing this huge transition away from print, which, if you remember, was the thing that I spent all my thousands of dollars of tuition on. And I was really thrust out into the world ill-equipped to thrive professionally. And I recognized that pretty early on. About 3 months into my first big job in New York City, working for a magazine, I was laid off. And I had just moved to New York from Georgia. I thought I had made it, big girl in the city. At a magazine, I was doing the thing, that I had dreamed of doing. And I got laid off just 3 months later. And that was my first experience being disposable to a company at that point. And I look back on it now and I see how pivotal that moment was for me and my entire approach to my career. What I mean by that is when they showed me I was disposable, I was much more intentional about not using loyalty as a trap through my career. So if they were going to dispose of me, I wasn't going to feel guilty about going through my career and leaving an employer for a new opportunity because I had already been showed they would do it at any given moment. And that's just the reality of working in corporate. And so with that mindset, I went through the rest of my career really using and leveraging the power of quitting for new opportunities to exponentially grow my income. And through my income growing, I was able to grow my savings and my net worth. And 10 years later, I went from being unemployed to then taking a job where I was really undervalued, underpaid, overqualified, went from earning like $35,000 to over $300,000 in the space of a decade because of that strategy that I was using to quit and to use quitting as a way of elevating myself and all those perceptions of the ambitious, career-driven woman that has become so negative, I feel like, in our society. I was that and then some, and I worked the hell out of it.
I love what you said about leveraging quitting to earn more. And I can't wait to dig into that later. But I would love to take it back a little bit. I know you said after college you moved from Georgia to New York. What part of Georgia are you from?
I was born in Atlanta, so I was born in Fulton County, and then we bopped around. So I grew up within half an hour of the city and the suburbs around. I went to 3 different high schools, so I was really just a little like a gypsy kid. We just moved a lot. And then I ended up at the University of Georgia through college. So it wasn't until after college that I left Georgia. Atlanta was not as poppin' as it is now. A lot has happened in 10 years, 10, 12 years.
Yeah, so I've been in Atlanta since 2006. Well, first of all, thank you for you natives for making Atlanta so attractive to us.
I don't think I could take any credit. I was not a cool kid, no.
But I also graduated in 2008. So during the recession, and I remember those times. And, I can't wait to hear more about how you've been able to use those challenging times to basically make lemonade out of lemon. Tell me more about your experience with money when you were growing up.
Yeah, I was raised mostly by a single mom. My parents split when I was 10 and I was one of 4. So my mom had 4 kids and we were ages 15 to 5 when they separated. I was 10, again, one of 4. So money was, I feel like one of my earliest money memories is when my parents were arguing about money. And I was so upset that I kind of went to my bedroom and I used to have one of these piggy banks in the shape of a Crayola crayon. And you would put your little coins in the slot at the top of the tip of the crayon. And I brought my Crayola crayon piggy bank to the kitchen and I left it with a note on the countertop. Here, take this money. Because I just wanted them to stop arguing about it. So if that just can paint a picture, there weren't many positive messages around money and what it could do and what a great tool it is. It was very much about what we couldn't do because we didn't have enough and who owed who what and all that drama. When I eventually grew up and got out, when I could control my own destiny, I remember this overwhelming sense of liberation because I could just earn my own money. And I had worked a little bit in high school, part-time. That was my experience as a kid, but now I get to decide what I'm going to do with this money and give myself freedom because I'm earning it.
You mentioned how obviously you grew up in an environment where there was a lack of money and there was a lot of tension when it comes to conversations around money. Unfortunately, that's the case for a lot of people. You went from that to 10xing your income, earning multiple six figures. And I'm curious to hear about some of the biggest hurdles that you had to overcome around money to even get in a frame of mind where you could earn significantly more.
I recently heard Mindy Kaling, and she was doing this talk with Fidelity, and she was saying how she has an unearned delusional level of self-confidence in a way that helps her move through her career and take big risks because she believes in herself. I do feel like I also have a little bit of that in the sense that I could envision myself in bigger paying roles, more demanding roles, leadership roles, way before anybody would ever have thought. I was always what I consider to be the best kept secret in the sense that I was extremely shy, extremely introverted, print journalism major, never spoke on camera, feared that, but deep inside, I knew I had the potential. And so for me, the challenge was helping other people see that and sort of moving from a place of feeling like I was underestimated to showing people my potential so that then I could get those opportunities.
So can you tell me more about how you've been able to go from being underestimated to helping people see your worth?
Yeah, so I had to unlearn the things that had kept me safe. I had really bad social anxiety and, like I said, extremely introverted and shy. I just was very socially anxious. It had kept me safe, right? I moved around a lot. It was hard to make new friends. By kind of going inward and being quiet and being studious, I could hide in my books and I could just be the smart girl that didn't talk and no one would invite me out. I wouldn't have any invitations to decline because I'd be busy studying. And that had kept me safe from disappointment and from rejection and things like that. In my career, I had to unlearn it. So one of the best things I did for myself after college was traveling abroad by myself and pushing myself out of my comfort zone and forcing myself to be in a new situation where being a loner, being quiet, not seeking community, not reaching out a hand and asking for things, I wasn't going to survive. I moved to Santiago, Chile after college, and I worked as an unpaid reporter for this English language news site. And it was terrifying and it was fish out of water. I can go on and on about that. But what it helped me do over those like 4 or 5 months when I was living abroad is it built such a level of confidence in myself. I had to take myself out to dinner by myself or I would starve. I would show up half an hour late to a lunch date because I feared so deeply sitting alone and the sound of a cafeteria and all that, putting myself out of my comfort zone in that extreme way, living in a different country. And I came back and then I went on to get a job in New York. I felt so much more confident that I could figure things out because I started to build that trust in myself that I could be flung into a new situation and I would be okay. And the more confident I got in that, I was able to speak to that confidence even more. It actually put my hand up and ask for new opportunities. For example, the first opportunity that came to me where I could really put that into practice was when I was the first personal finance writer for Business Insider, which is now a huge site, but back then it was brand new. I was the first reporter. I had an editor and wasn't a great relationship, but she ended up leaving. And I had only been there not even a year. And I raised my hand and I said, I want to take a stab at being editor. I think I have what it takes. And they gave me a shot. So that's what I mean by starting to be able to hold up my hand and say that I'm ready and actually get the beginnings of those bigger and better opportunities.
I love that. So you were the first personal finance writer for Business Insider.
Yeah.
The personal finance contributor for Business Insider. So you were identified as one of the most influential new voices of personal finance, but you've actually been around for a very long time.
I'm an OG, Anne-Lyse. Yes.
When did you guys start the podcast?
Brown Ambition, we started in 2015.
2015.
And I started writing for Business Insider in 2011. And
Wow.
at that point, I had gone from Business Insider to Yahoo Finance. And over that 4-year period, I was a personal finance reporter. I had a money video series on Yahoo that I started. It was way before people like Tiffany were starting to come up, and Tanya Rapley and Sandy Smith from Side Hustle. It was this very small group of women of color and people of color in finance. It's blown up since then.
It's just a reminder that overnight success takes 10 years.
Yes, absolutely. I'm considered a new voice today because of the work I've done in career coaching and building my Mandi Moneymakers community. And that was a big shift away from more general personal finance topics for sure. So that can kind of explain why I'm like a fresh face, even though I've been here in a different way for a long time.
Tell me more about the work that you do now as a career coach.
I basically had this moment of reflection. I moved up from being a journalist and I pivoted into a career where I was managing a big team in content marketing, basically managing a team of 30 writers and editors. And we were all my team was in charge of writing hundreds of personal finance articles for this big fintech company. I was very successful and it was a lucrative career. And that's how I was able to really increase my earnings through negotiating more salary, signing bonuses, equity, all that good stuff. Toward 2021, I had done my 6th and final quit of my career. I didn't know it was the final quit of my career yet, but it was a big quit. I was leaving that job in fintech after 5 years, after building that team and being so proud of it. But something inside me was missing the creativity. As a manager, I was managing the managers, managing the creatives, doing the writing and, all that. And I was missing my roots as a writer and reporter of telling stories and engaging and really being close to my audience. And I felt in me a shift. I started to crave something new and different. And then I got what I thought was this dream opportunity to basically be a spokesperson and an educator for a huge financial brand. And it was also very lucrative. This was the pinnacle of my career. So I quit, took that opportunity, and it was not it. It was not what I had thought it was. And I lasted there for just a few months. And then I had this moment where after 12 years of my career, of taking all my own advice, of quitting strategically, increasing my net worth, having a nice savings, having financial security, I had an opportunity to choose what I wanted to do next. And I chose myself. I chose to take a chance and start a business. And when I thought, what is it that would fulfill that creative void? What was it that I really had wanted to do for that big financial brand that I found out I wasn't going to be able to do? And I was like, I can do that on my own. I had thought that I needed a big brand behind me to legitimize myself. But like you said, I had been in this game for 10 years. I had the credibility and the authority. I just needed to believe in myself. What I realized is I was very passionate. Even through the podcast, I'd always been the 9-to-5 corporate girly. Tiffany was the badass entrepreneur business owner, and I was really repping for the 9-to-5ers and constantly fielding those questions from our listeners. And I think I have some value to give here to women of color navigating their corporate careers and offering the same strategies that help me to help them succeed. And so the summer of 2021, I offered free career coaching sessions because I wanted to do some market research and get to know women. And also I wanted to see if anyone wanted to be coached by me because I didn't know, can I do this? Will people want it? So I started by offering free sessions. 200 women signed up. I was like, whoops. I did 100 something sessions at the end of it. Thankfully, not everyone actually followed through, but I did their free session. And by the end of 6 months, I had developed the idea for Mandi Moneymakers, which I launched at the beginning of 2022.
That's amazing. If you could pinpoint some of the strategies that you've used to go from earning $35K to over $300K before becoming a full-time entrepreneur, what would they be? Because I'm sure people are eager to know what they can do to earn more.
2 main ones. One is building a really strong professional brand. And the second one is upskill. Like I said, I studied print journalism. I basically knew how to write stuff, and that wasn't going to cut it. The industry was changing. I was not going to make it. And obviously I already had learned. I was extremely disposable because my only skill was to write and I had nothing else to give. And they were like, oh, just cut that girl. I had been laid off. So for me, it was important to start to upskill. So what did I do? I didn't go back and get a new degree. I upskilled in place. So I looked for opportunities at the places I was hired to take on new work and new challenges. For me at Business Insider, that was starting to interview people for the camera, which was so nerve-wracking. The set was right in the middle of the newsroom. People could hear you talking. It was my nightmare. But I started to recognize I needed to learn how to speak on camera because video was very lucrative for journalism and it was just the way things were going. Then when I joined Yahoo Finance, I wanted to double down on that and then produce my own video ideas. I made friends with the producing team and I was like, I think I have an idea for a weekly video series. I'll write the script. I'll do all the segment production or whatever. You guys just let me play with your equipment and let me work with you guys. Of course, we're desperate for video content. They were like, you want to write the scripts for us and do the thing on camera for us? Okay, you're going to make our jobs easier. So that's when I learned to write for digital video and worked on my video presence and how to read a teleprompter and all of that. And then the podcast. I launched Brown Ambition Podcast in 2015. Podcasting was really coming up as a hot new way of doing journalism and storytelling. Although Yahoo at the time said no when I pitched Brown Ambition to them, they didn't want to finance it or support it. Thank God, because now we own it entirely. But I taught myself how to edit and put a podcast up, investing in my skills and making myself more attractive, more substance to my resume. And not only that, but the things I was doing were putting me out there and getting noticed and getting attention. I wasn't just doing the video to be doing it. I was sharing it on LinkedIn, sharing it with my network. I was sharing my podcast, getting out there on social media, getting out there on LinkedIn. That connects to the first thing I mentioned, which was professional branding, which is what I work with so many women on, is you can't be the best kept secret. So how can you start to tell people in your network and be recognized and noticed for the work that you're doing? So whether it was attending conferences and then pitching to speak at a conference, the work I was promoting on social media would get me invited to speak on a panel or be a panelist or do a talk for a conference or something like that. You know, those opportunities were coming because my brain was getting out there. And lo and behold, I met my future boss and he was the one who gave me my shot as a content director and helped me pivot. And I went from earning like 90K to 145K. So that was a huge transition. So professional branding and upskilling are two of the biggest strategies that I used and I have seen work for my clients and my Mandi moneymakers when it comes to attracting those bigger and better job opportunities.
Well, you dropped so many gems just now. You've been pivoting, right, for the past 10 years.
Ever, right? Forever. Pivot my whole life. Since I was 10 and my mom was like, we're moving out.
That's a good point. Talk to me about the art of the pivot. Like, how do you know when to pivot and how to pivot?
The thing is, if you are doing the work of upskilling and having a strong professional brand, it's going to be hard for you not to have opportunities coming to you. A lot of women come to me and they feel stuck. At this point, they know they want something new. They want to pivot, but because they haven't invested in their professional brand or their upskill, the opportunities aren't coming to them. And I do believe in the power of opportunities coming to you versus you having to go out there and always hunt them down. So for me, throughout my career, I mentioned I quit 6 times, right? Of those 6 new jobs that I took, only one of them I applied for. The other 5 came to me. And that was the very first job I took after I was laid off and I was desperate. And I was like, I'll do anything. So from there, it was referrals. It was someone remembering or seeing my work. That job at Insider, why'd they hire me off the street? I didn't have any personal finance experience. It was because a former editorial assistant at a magazine I interned at had followed my blog. I started a blog about biking in New York. And she was like, you're a great writer. I'm hiring a writer. Do you want to try to write about money? So it was, again, me sharing that work so that she could see it, attracting that attention, getting that opportunity. And from there, the same thing. From Insider to Yahoo Finance. Yahoo Finance loved my work at Insider, got me noticed. I literally was writing for the Yahoo Finance editors. I wanted a job there, but I knew I had the best shot at getting one if they were loving and seeing my content. That's what I mean by attracting those opportunities to you.
So I guess it's very important for us to not only know how to pivot or when to pivot, but also have to make yourself attractive the next opportunity.
You have to be poachable. I talk with my makers all the time about being as poachable as possible. You don't want to be the best kept secret. Don't play hard to get. I mean, I wasn't out there like with a hire me sign on the side of the street, but I was consistently showing up in the spaces where people who I wanted to hire me were hanging out. And by that, I mean at the conferences with other media leadership. I was showing up at the conference where the founder of that company that gave me my start as a content director, where he was at, Magnify Money, a personal finance marketplace. He was at FinCon. I put myself at FinCon. You know, I didn't have to go there. That was my choice to go into network. How are you putting yourself in the path of people who could give you opportunities? And then when you're in their path, how are you showing up? Are you someone who's going to be on the speaker list as a panelist or as a speaker? Are you someone who's associated with a cool project that's going to get an award that people in the audience are going to want to know? So how can you not be the best kept secret, and how can you make yourself super easy to contact? Put your email address out there, be on LinkedIn, put together a portfolio and publish it, share your stuff. It's really challenging for a lot of people to get over that hump of self-promotion because it seems like icky and cringe. But what's the alternative? You're going to continue being stuck, right? That's a lot of what I do with the women I work with, is shove them over the cliff so that they start to share their work and get noticed.
I think it's such a good point, right? Because a lot of times you get a job and you just worry about basically getting out there more inside of your company, right? So you really think about, what can I do to be more attractive to the world, really?
So there's entrepreneurship, which is really important. That's what you're talking about. I believe in the power of entrepreneurship, which is when you're in a company, what kind of initiatives will you take charge of? What new ideas will you bring to the table? How can you generate new, lucrative, achieve business goals, like new ideas, things, and develop a strong reputation internally at your company? I think that's really helpful for your professional brand, because you never know where those people are going to wind up. They could quit. They usually do. Quit, go somewhere else, and they poach you. It's a small world, you know? What kind of impact are you making currently at your company? Yes. But then also you have to do both, internally and externally.
You work with a lot of women of color. What are some of the most common challenges that we face when it comes to thinking we can earn more?
Yeah, I mean, you said it, thinking. It's like the mindset. It's the stories that we've told ourselves. The most common one I hear is, I want a change, but I need this certificate first. Or I'm thinking about getting this new degree or going back to school for this and that. I do believe in upskilling, but I don't necessarily think that it takes a whole new alphabet soup next to your name in order to qualify for new opportunities. That's one of the things that I'm up against sometimes, is women thinking they don't have everything they already need to succeed. And I hear this from some of the most accomplished people. When I look at their LinkedIn pages, I'm like, you need what from Google free digital marketing course? What? Like, no, you don't. You've been doing this for a decade. The thing is, they want that certificate or degree to sell them. They think that that piece of paper is going to be the thing that they just have to put that by their name and people are going to accept their value, when really it's how you sell yourself. And listen, I am a 4-year public university print journalism graduate. I haven't gotten any other fancy titles next to my name, no certificates, none of that stuff. It's because I'm really good at sharing and getting my value across to other people. I think as women of color, the message from a young age is that we are not worthy, we're not special, we're undervalued. They don't think of us as going to Ivy League schools. I went to a public school because no one in my high school was telling me I should go to an Ivy League, and I didn't think it was possible. So I just was like, okay, I'll go to the college in the big state school. But like, we're underestimated at every turn. So it's not surprising that we internalize that. So I think the power of Mandi Moneymakers and the community that I've built is that you're surrounding yourself with other women of color who have just started to believe in themselves, and it's addicting. It's contagious. So I'm big on the power of you being around other people whose mindset has shifted so that you start to believe a different story about your possibilities.
That's so key. And I can totally relate. I'm a CPA and I have an MBA, and then I wanted to go get another certification and I had to stop myself. Like, what are you doing?
For what?
You talk about quitting your way to wealth. What does that concept mean?
Quit your way rich. That concept means to be unapologetic about pursuing new professional opportunities when a couple of things are true. When the new opportunities coming to you give you a chance to grow and to take on new skills, take on new challenges that excite you, and they pay you better. You're only going to be able to do so much within an organization to get raises once you're already there. Okay. And you may come in earning great money, but 10 years later, after annual 3% raises that don't even beat inflation these days, you're only going to be making so much more, right? The most lucrative opportunities to negotiate more are when you quit and join a new organization, because they know that you're currently employed and they have to woo you. They have to impress you and get you, they're poaching you. That power of being poached is instrumental in how I was able to increase my net worth. And I'm not saying just take a job for money. I said when two things were true. Money had to be right, but also the opportunity needed to make sense for you and where you're at in your career, and to be unapologetic about that. You don't have to feel guilty about quitting for more money and a better opportunity. That's exciting. That's a sign that you're doing the right things in your career. And I just don't think that we should feel guilty or pass up those opportunities out of a sense of loyalty to what? To a company who get rid of you at the first sign of problems.
Obviously, you have mastered the art of negotiation at this point. What are some of the tips that you can share with the dreamers who might be thinking about looking for another job or just negotiation tips in general?
I argue, and what my career and what my experience with other women has shown me, that the negotiation happens so far in advance of that actual, here's your offer letter, and then you go back and forth. The negotiation happens when you show them your intrinsic value and they are excited to hire you. So they come and poach you and they're coming to you. And all of a sudden that shifts the dynamic. Now they have come to you and they want you. So a lot of my negotiation tips and strategies center on how do you put yourself in a position to where you are attracting those new opportunities so that you already go into a negotiation with more leverage. And then also how you can use the power of multiple job offers. And I'm counting your current job as one of those offers, how you can leverage those multiple offers and always be looking for new opportunities so that you're able to negotiate even more because you've actually got multiple offers and there's a real urgency. There's hotness to you, like, dang, Anne-Lyse, she's in demand. She's got 3 different jobs. I got to really come to the table with my best and final. So that's a lot of the work that I do in my negotiating.
When is the masterclass?
The next negotiating masterclass, I teach a 5-step negotiating method. It's free again, and it's on November 15th. So if you want to sign up, you can go to mandymoney.com, join my mailing list, and you will be the first to get access to the link to register. And it's so much fun. And I really enjoy teaching it. And it's been really fun to hear what the people who come have been able to do just after this hour-long session.
What's one thing that surprised you when it comes to money and wealth over the years?
One thing that surprised me is you need to have a special amount of knowledge or know-how to really build wealth, when really what separates the wealth builders like myself from people who aren't building wealth is just a decision to start. When I was 24, I opened a 401k and I barely knew what it was. I knew just enough to understand to sign up for a target date fund, and I just did it. And I got out of my own way. I stopped myself from wanting to go out and get a certificate in investing before I started to invest. It was because of that decision I made at 24 when I was making like 40K. I wasn't making that much. I think I put in like less than $3,000 my first year. But it was that habit of investing that I formed at 24 that made me able to actually capitalize on my newfound earnings as I was earning more. Because I was already in the habit of putting aside 10%. 10% of 40 is not very much, but 10% of 300 definitely is. So just the power of time and getting out of your own way, I would say. And then my biggest tip financially is like keep lifestyle inflation at bay as much as possible. In New York, when you get a bigger paycheck, you want to get the bigger apartment. You want to get the apartment closer to the train, the apartment closer to the nice restaurants, the apartment with a washer dryer, like you keep leveling up and it eats away at your additional earnings. I'm not saying everyone should struggle, like you should live a comfortable life, but make sure that your money is working for you and it's not disappearing into purchases or new amenities that you actually don't value more than your own financial freedom down the line.
How do you today use your earnings to build more wealth for the future?
Oh, I just literally today opened a solo 401k, my very first one. So last year I was super late. I ended up just opening what's called a SEP IRA. So now I'm an entrepreneur. I don't have a 401k anymore. Man, I miss it. It was so convenient and just like everything was taken care of for you. I am trying to follow the same practice I learned early in my career, which is just do it. Don't try to be an expert. I'm strategizing how I'm going to be saving and investing through my business even today. So I opened up my solo 401k. I've had a SEP IRA already, and I've got a meeting with my financial planner for like next week to figure out how much to contribute. And I'm hoping that I kind of get things settled and squared away so that I can be taking advantage of these cheap prices right now that we're seeing.
Can you share like 3 actionable things that people can do today to make sure that they get paid their worth going forward?
Number 1, look up job listings for roles that you want, even if they're a stretch. And then go and compare that to your LinkedIn profile and ask yourself how you're positioning yourself for those opportunities. So what can you tweak? What can you point out? What keywords can you incorporate into your LinkedIn profile so that it's more likely someone searching for those job candidates for those roles you found are going to find you? LinkedIn's a search engine. You want to show up when people are searching for someone with your skills. So that's number one. Number two is reach out to a professional connection and just catch up with them. Tell them what you're up to. Tell them what your goals are. Just form or rekindle an old professional connection. People are such a powerful source of intelligence when it comes to what salary should I expect, or what opportunities are available right now? What skills do you think are hot and in demand? Personal connections are really important. So connect with someone you haven't in a while. And number three, add another 1% to your 401k. Just go do it. If you're putting in 8%, put in 9. If you're putting in 10, put in 11. You won't miss it. And it'll probably lead to tens of thousands of dollars more in investing gains over the course of your career.
That sounds great. I always wrap up the interview with a round of rapid fire questions. So tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Not a book that changed your perspective on life.
Shonda Rhimes' The Year of Yes.
What's one life lesson you learned the hard way?
That if you don't ask for help, you will break. I learned that as a mom in a pandemic. I nearly broke mentally and I needed help.
What's one thing about money you wish you could tell your younger self?
Girl, stop buying all the clothes at the Gap outlet. Save the money that you're earning from the Gap outlet. Have you ever checked your Social Security income statement? Because you can actually see all your earnings from like the beginning of time. SSA.gov. Treat yourself to a download of your free earnings record. And I went back and I was like, I earned $10,000 from the Gap outlet in 1 year. What if I had invested $10,000 in 2002? Can you imagine? So yeah, I would tell her to stop buying so many jeans and save.
What's the best investment in yourself you've made so far?
Starting this business. That was a huge investment in myself. In fact, it took a huge chunk of my savings because I was financing and living off of our savings. I do have a partner, but I was and still am the primary breadwinner. So for me to say I'm going to stop earning a 9-to-5 income and go all in on my business, that was huge. And I did invest tens of thousands of dollars in the form of like just paying our monthly bills while I was doing my cute little free career coaching sessions. And I think it was a good investment.
Filling the blank in 3 words or less. Money to me is
a tool for freedom.
What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, my first legacy, I want my son, who's about to be 3. I look at him as my little project. I want to create the perfect man and put him into the world. No toxic masculinity, well-rounded, can speak his mind, can use his emotions. I want a legacy of a great human being that I put into the world. And then through my work, I want the idea of just hundreds of women of color who are killing it in their careers and negotiating with confidence and earning more money because of something they heard me say or read or was inspired by listening to me talk. That's a legacy that I'm really proud of that I'm starting to build now. And that's what I'm all about.
Love it. So Mandi, thank you so much for coming on the show. Please tell the dreamers where they can find you.
Thank you so much, Anne-Lyse, for giving me this space and sharing your platform. You can find me at mandymoney.com. That's Mandi with an I. And I'm at Mandi Money on most social media platforms. So come say hello. Slide into my DMs. I respond most of the time. And I can't wait to hear from some of y'all.
All right. Thank you.